Why did I feel like I had to restrict myself? Why did I feel like there were some foods that were bad and I shouldn't have, or that I felt guilty eating? It's just food. But to me, it held so much emotional weight, and my mind just kept tripping me up. And every holiday, I found out that I didn't have the best relationship with food because I would way overeat. So there were all these little nuances that weren't as simple as, here's your macros, eat some protein, here are your calories, eat more, eat less. It was so much more diverse than that. And that was a whole process. That was probably 2 to 3 years of my journey, was just learning how to have a healthy relationship with food.
Welcome to this week's episode of Conquer the Day. I am your host, Brian Pickowitz.
And I am your co-host, Lindsay Pickowitz.
And today we're giving you the secret, the one thing you have to do in order to build a healthy lifestyle.
Now, we're going to spoil this right off the bat for you because we want you to have this secret, even if you only have 2 minutes to listen to this podcast episode or this video. What is the secret?
A lot of people struggle with making change in their fitness because they see it as something they are doing. And if you want this to be something that lasts, if you want to pull the best parts of you into every single thing that you do, you have to see this as a process of you building a healthy lifestyle, which means you have to become a healthy person. It has to become a part of you. It's not just about changing the external, right? Which means, oh, I changed my body, or I started eating better, or I did this program. It has to be a part of you, which means you have to see yourself getting better every single day because of the actions you're taking.
Mm-hmm. And that's really it. Even if you just do that and you take that principle with you, you will see more success. The problem with getting in shape is that naturally, as we look at people who are in shape, we see people who we might deem as healthy. All we see is a body, right? We see somebody who's lean, strong, fit, and maybe we see their actions. We see that they're runners, they go outside a lot, they're active, right? They eat salads when they go out to restaurants. And this is our image of healthy. So when we think, oh, I want to get healthy, or I want to lose weight, or I want to be more in shape, we tend to default to finding programs. Right? We find a workout plan, we find a diet, and we think, well, if I do that, I'm going to look like them, or I'm going to be like them. When in reality, there's so much more transformation that has to occur for someone who is unhealthy and overweight to become healthy and fit. It's not just a physical transformation or a commitment to a program.
And I think what you said is so important because you can look at someone, it can be any walk of life. It can be fitness, it can be business, it can be education or music, and think, oh, music's a really great example. If I play the same notes, I will sound the same way.
So true.
And it's the artist. Artist is what makes the art. And so when you think of yourself changing in this journey, it's not just enough to go to the gym. You have to really dig into yourself and say, what does it look like for me to be at my best? What does it look like for me to dial in my habits? And why am I doing this? What is the reason and the vision that you're moving towards that's possible because you're making this change? And so when we think that we're committing to a plan, it's momentary, right? It's like, I'm going to learn how to play an instrument versus I'm going to become an artist, right? It's like, that's great. You're going to learn how to play a couple songs. But what if you were really committed to this lifelong pursuit of art?
Yeah.
The thing about health is it is a lifelong pursuit.
Whether you want it or not.
So it is that shift in how is this going to be something that makes me better? We have to see this as a process of self-improvement. Just as much as we see it as a change in our health.
Totally.
And it's not just a self-improvement mantra of positive thinking. It's understanding all the mechanisms that come together in how we see ourselves and the way that we think that makes it so that every day we're making incremental strides towards our ideal self, right? Because that's what improves our business, improves our relationships. It's that thoughtfulness of I am doing something that's going to make me better.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, as an individual, if I get better, everything else gets better too.
Yeah. And it's really, we're going to break down a little bit of how you can actually do this. So if you'd like to roll with us through the remainder of this thought so you can get into the how do I do this though? Right? Then stick with us. But when we start to think about getting healthy, again, the musician is such a great example because you can learn how to play, like I'm learning how to play the violin right now. But if I just say, I want to learn how to play violin, then I get very impatient when it's hard because I'm like, I just want to learn how to play violin. As opposed to, I want to actually tap back into the musician side of me. I want to get back to that feeling and that artistry and actually tackle it in a different way. That's completely different. And you can see how easily you can determine what you really want. Do you actually want to become a musician? Maybe not. So do you want to spend your time learning how to play the violin? Maybe not. Right? But in the health and fitness sense, it's going to be very obvious when you say, do you really want to be healthy? Like, do you actually want to live well? Do you want to feel good every day? Do you want to have a healthy lifestyle? Well, maybe not in the traditional sense of what you've seen somebody else do, but you probably do want a healthy life, right? You probably do want to feel good. Now, I want to bring this back to maybe what will resonate with you based on my own experience. When I was growing up, if you said, do you want to have a healthy lifestyle? I probably would have had no idea what you were saying because I didn't really have anyone who spoke like that. I didn't have anybody in my life who was like, oh yeah, I live a healthy lifestyle. Like I choose to live well. I saw it as you were either like, I had an aunt who was a marathon runner and an uncle who was a marathon runner. And I thought that was people who were fit and that's just how they were and how they always were. And they were just born that way and they loved to run and that was them. And then there were people who were dieting.
They're like Bruce Springsteen. They were
Exactly.
born to run.
But then there were people who were dieting. And I was one of those people. Like there were people who needed to lose weight, so they dieted. I saw those as like the bucket that I fit into. And then there were people who didn't have to try. Like who just were naturally lean. They didn't even work out. They didn't even necessarily try to eat well. It was just, they just were that way. And so like that was my personal categorization for health, right? And there might be people who are dieting who would eat salads at restaurants and I kind of put them in the dieting category, right? Like that was all I knew. So if you said, do you want to live a healthy lifestyle? I'd be like, yeah, I guess. So you have to look at what does health actually look like for you, right? And you had a story about that too.
And the key to kind of tie it into the music as an example, it's like, well, maybe you don't have an image of health, right? So you can't necessarily see yourself living a healthy life. Like you can't imagine yourself being an artist. And that's okay. That's why you start a program. Just like that's why you pick up an instrument.
Right.
Like you pick up an instrument to learn the instrument, and unconsciously what you're actually wanting is to perform music.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's something like playing your favorite song or maybe writing your own music, there's something else that comes after. And so what we want to analyze is what's the something else that comes after the program? What's the diet that comes after the diet? And that's why we're asking the question, who are you becoming? Because it's okay to start a program and say, hey, I'm going to really push myself for 12 weeks and this is why I'm doing this. But there has to be a long-term vision. There has to be something that's correlated to something greater. Mm-hmm. And that's why we want to talk about it, because this is something that we have mastered in our own life, is building healthy habits and living a healthy life. Mm-hmm. But to tie it back in, I had some positive role models, at least in my life. I mean, my parents were athletic when they were younger. My dad got sick when I was 12, so most of my life was seeing my parents sick. But I didn't necessarily have an image of health. I had an image of average, living, right? So we had cookies and sweets. It was like, hey, an average American diet. Mm-hmm. And I remember the first time I saw someone who was healthy, it was an ex-girlfriend of mine. Her uncle was really into pea protein, and we'd go and visit them on Christmas, and he'd have to go get his workouts in. And I was like, this guy is really disciplined. And so I almost put him in this category of like a granola person. Like he just doesn't eat candy and he doesn't eat sweets, and this is the way he lives. And I think that seeing someone who lived that way without me being anywhere close to it really put me off to the idea of prioritizing health.
Right.
I just thought, oh, that's so unrealistic. That's not probable. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people is they're like, oh, I do want to be healthy. I understand the benefits of what you're talking about, but I don't want to be on keto my whole life. I don't want to give up everything I enjoy. I don't want to cut out all my carbs. I don't want to go and have to run a marathon or an ultra marathon. And so the key is for you to establish what's really important for your life. What would be exciting for you? What do you want to look like? What do you want to feel like? How do you want to live? And then to start to pull in examples or role models of people who are living the way that you want, because you can model anyone.
Yep.
Right? You can model someone who is a runner. You can model someone who is really healthy in their 70s and ask the question, well, what did they do?
Or how did they think?
Yeah, how did they think? What were some of their habits? What were some of the things they believed?
Yep.
And so what we're saying is you might need to throw away your current image of what healthy looks like to build something that actually excites you. You might have to let go of this image of perfection in health and eating only organic foods and never cheating on your diet to actually get to the point where you can be healthy.
So how do you actually start changing this, right? How do you start changing your paradigm? Once you realize you have to start maybe letting go or assessing who you've gotten these ideas about health about, then you can start to build your own vision of what health looks like. We both had to do this, right? Based on these stories we've shared with you, we've had to look at who we got our idea of health from and then basically build our own. Now, as we've been going through the journey for the last 8+ years, we didn't realize all the things that were changing in the moment, but now in retrospect, we can look back and see a very clear and obvious 3 categories, basically 3 steps, 3 big stages of health that we had to go through to get to where we are today. And that's what we want to share with you so you can learn faster and do this more intentionally. The first thing that we did, both of us, is we had to build a new vision. We had to start with our mind. We had to look at our thoughts and say, what are we actually trying to create here?
And most people think that they have to start with the body.
Right. Start working out.
And you have to think, in order for you to start with the body, you have to start with the mind, because the body will not go where the mind isn't already focused on. So when we talk about starting with the mind, it is being able to find the motivation or create the vision. I know for myself, when I first started getting into training, it was because I was 14 and one of my brother's best friends was 18. And he'd gotten really into weightlifting, and I would hang out with him, and he had really big biceps. And everyone would come around and be like, oh, let me see your biceps. And I was like, wow, like I would love to be like me. And then when I got into college, I was a great athlete in high school, but I didn't have confidence because I came from such a small town that I didn't think I would be able to play college football. And so I had a walk-on scholarship, like I had an opportunity to play, and I essentially quit before I even gave myself a chance. But there was a part of me that really wanted this thing. And so I remember thinking, I need to go to the gym and work out. I need to go and get myself stronger because I didn't want to lose the opportunity. The desire to train, though, wasn't based off of me saying, here's how I'm going to change my diet and here's how I'm going to move my body. It was, this is the thing I want to accomplish. This is the thing that I'm moving towards. It was a vision. It was in the mind first.
And for me, it was also in the mind. When we first started talking through this podcast, I thought, well, I did start working out first. I did start looking at my nutrition. But Brian challenged me, and he's absolutely right. It always started in the mind first. I had Pinterest boards for days about how I wanted my body to look. And that was far before I ever figured it out. And then once I went to Brian's bodybuilding competition, which was his first one he ever did was July 2015, I believe. We had just kind of started dating a little bit. But I went to that show, and this was the first time that I saw people who were just like me, like normal people who had everyday lives, who had these incredible bodies. Like they were lean and strong and fit. They looked great. They looked confident. And this was the first time I had really seen that from somebody who clearly worked for it and was able to create it. For whatever reason, that just clicked in my brain. Oh, if they can do it, I can do it too. This isn't just a random like stock image from Pinterest. Like, this is a real person. So I saw it first. I had seen it on Pinterest before, and then I saw it in person, and then I was like, I can do this. So I had to wrap my mind around what my vision was and believe that I could actually do it. And then I started executing and figuring it out after, but it did absolutely start with the mind first.
And so once you start by asking yourself, well, what's my vision? And really thinking about how you're thinking about this, right? Analyzing your thoughts, understanding, well, maybe there's a limiting belief here. Maybe I have to get used to being a beginner. Maybe I have to address that fear of failure. Maybe I have to just see this as something that I need to persist through because it's going to make me better.
And you do the hard things.
Addressing the mind leads you to address the body. And what's great about having a foundation in the mind is there's going to be a lot of times where your body is going to fail. Right? I remember the first time I ever went to the gym. This is a true story. I was a beanpole of a kid. And when I went to the gym, I didn't really know what to do. I knew I'd bench press and some bicep curls. And so I grabbed dumbbells and I did one set. I was like, that was kind of hard. I did it heavier and it was really hard. And then the third one, I dropped the weights on my chest. I was so embarrassed, but it was a step. And I remember thinking after I left, I was like, I need to come back tomorrow. And I don't care what I do. I have to do something. And that was a stepping stone for me to continue forward. And so once you start learning how your body works, you can learn how to push it. You can learn how to take better care of it. You can learn all those pieces about what your body needs, whether that's to strength train, to build muscle, to build flexibility, to build your cardiovascular health. I mean, we've done so many things in our body journey, whether that was running or cardio or yoga or whatever it is, because we've seen it as a gradual process. And so seeing that it starts with the body, so seeing that it goes from the mind and the vision to the body and then how you fuel it, gives you a really solid foundation to continue to persist and really make that healthy change.
And now that you've looked at the body, then we can start to look at your nutrition. Body and nutrition, I would say they fall in kind of that same stage, same category, because you probably know as well as anyone else that if you only exercise but you never look at your nutrition, you're probably not going to get very far, right? Your results aren't going to get anywhere. You're going to feel like you're working out is kind of pointless. You might still do it, but it doesn't really get you anywhere, right? We have to have both of them together. So for us and for me specifically, I'll talk more from my perspective. I was totally down to get in the gym and move my body. I was excited to learn how to exercise. I was excited to learn how to lift weights, get strong, because it felt good. Nutrition was the biggest challenge for me on that strategic side, because for me, like I said at the very beginning, my only view of health was dieting. And for someone like me who had weight to lose, that was the only option. So I really had to not only learn how to fuel my body, which was giving it far more food than I thought it needed, right? Or that it could handle. But it was also really addressing my relationship with food, addressing my mindset around food. Why did I feel like I had to restrict myself? Why did I feel like there were some foods that were bad and I shouldn't have, or that I felt guilty eating? It's just food. But to me, it held so much emotional weight, and my mind just kept tripping me up. And every holiday, I found out that I didn't have the best relationship with food because I would way overeat. So there were all these little nuances that weren't as simple as, here's your macros, eat some protein, here are your calories, eat more, eat less. It was so much more diverse than that. And that was a whole process. That was probably 2 to 3 years of my journey, was just learning how to have a healthy relationship with food.
And I think that the key to understand too, when we talk about nutrition, is it's easier to add than it is to fix. Right. So one of the things you want to consider is when you are improving your nutrition and improving how you approach food, it's continuing to add in nourishing foods, continuing to add foods in that make you feel good and allow you to see the results that you want.
Yep.
Right. Alfie, what are you doing over there, bud? We have a special guest here.
Hanging
Our dog
out.
has jumped into the,
He's like,
the
food,
studio.
dinner?
But the key of understanding nutrition, to come back to it, is looking at it from the perspective of, I'm working on my body from a movement perspective. I'm working on my body and how I'm taking care of it. And then I'm also adding in this layer of nutrition, which makes it so that not only am I seeing the results that I want, I'm also feeling the way that I want.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
that's how you know that the nutrition that you're putting in your body is creating not just the physical change, but the internal change as well.
Yeah. Once you get all of that together, right? You start understanding how to move your body, how to fuel your body. For us, in retrospect, the next layer of our health was our emotional and spiritual well-being. For us, we wanted to start off with this vision. We both wanted to look a certain way. We wanted to feel a certain level of confidence. We wanted to be able to do certain things. Once we started to figure out how to do them, that's when it came to the training, the nutrition, the relationship with food. Once we had all that in place, you'd think we'd just be at this pinnacle, right? And maybe if you were friends with us on social media at that time, maybe you thought that that was where we were, was pinnacle. That's the best body and physique and confidence. But the truth was we were still missing a huge component of health at that stage, which was around, I'd say, like 2017, 2018. And that was our emotional and spiritual well-being, which is a whole different category of health.
Well, and I think that the key with understanding emotions is just being able to be present with how you feel, right? And understand how you feel, understand how your internal world is creating your external reality.
Mm-hmm.
So to not go too woo-woo, something as simple as me changing my relationship with anger was incredibly vital for a healthy relationship. Something like me being able to process anxiety in a more productive way was vital to me staying on track with not only how I was taking care of my health, but also how I was showing up in my business, how I was showing up for those I cared about.
Yep.
From a spiritual standpoint, being able to really connect with my soul and believe that there was a soul and understand that there's a purpose that goes beyond what I believe I'm here for, that is far greater than I could ever imagine. And so these are layers, right? It's really challenging to get to the soul if we're not connected with the mind. It's really challenging to get to our emotions if we're not connected with the body.
Mm-hmm.
So there's these ties that all come together. And the beautiful thing is every single piece of the puzzle fits together really well when you're working on yourself. Yeah. And so I wanted to tie this down by just acknowledging, there's layers to this. You're looking at the mind, you're looking at your vision of where you want to be, you're taking care of the body, you're fueling the body, you're understanding a little bit more about what it looks like to handle emotions in a healthy way. And then maybe you're feeling guided by your spirit, your creator, whatever that looks like to you. All of these are intricate pieces of just a healthy life well lived here on earth. And so we wanted to give this to you because we think it's something that's seldom addressed when it comes to what does it look like to have a healthy life. It's like, yeah, that's great you lost weight, or maybe you don't believe you can lose weight. Whatever it is that you're experiencing, how can we take it a layer deeper and really make this a productive and profound change? How can we make it something that stems into our business, our career, our relationships, our community? I think if we look at all those ties coming together, that's what a healthy life looks like, and that's how we take that gift and are able to give it to others too.
If this was helpful, go ahead and send it to somebody who's trying to get healthy too. We want to spread this. We want to make sure that you are not the only one in your circle getting healthy. So take this in, create your own vision, and then share this with somebody else and have a great dialogue. If you have a spouse who's also aiming to be healthy or who's trying to support you in the journey, maybe send this to them. But all in all, we hope that this has been really helpful and insightful and has started to get your gears turning. So with that, we'll leave you here for today to go and build a healthier lifestyle. Before you go, the only thing that we ask is if you are on YouTube, give this video a thumbs up if it was helpful. And if you're on Apple Podcasts or you're on Spotify, screenshot this, share your biggest takeaway on social media and tag us so we can hear it and connect with you. But otherwise, take this information, take these insights and go out and conquer your day.
Cheers.